MP who wants to keep the pubs open.
Yeah, Mike, good point. Thank you for the clarification. That's what I meant. If they are going to vote for the tiers, because if they are voting for the tiers, then they're voting to close your business down. And that, I think, is a good enough reason to bar them and make it known that they're barred. Because I think the thing is, I mean, it comes down to the marginals, doesn't it? They're the MPs are going to be worried now, and I think they're the ones who are feeling the heat now that we're coming into this. Actually, it's not just a national lockdown. Then they could hide under it. Now it's going to be known how they've voted, and I think, as I say, the marginals are going to be the ones who are worried about this. An 80-seat majority is going to go as well. I mean, you've got people who voted a Conservative for the first time. They need a good reason to do it again, and at the moment they've got a very good reason not to vote for Conservative again. Conservative Party, Mike, is destroying the pub trade.
Well,
let's go.
Okay, now
they're not going to come back.
No, now you're getting a bit party political. I don't mind that because everybody's entitled to express their opinion here on Talk Radio. But all I would say is that the leader of the Tory party, and now the Prime Minister, obviously, always put himself forward as a libertarian, a man who would fight tooth and nail to protect the liberties of the population of this country. He's doing exactly the opposite. So I'll be perfectly honest, some of those Tory MPs are really banging their head against a brick wall trying to work out why Boris Johnson, who as well as Prime Minister, should also be the chairman of the board, of Britain UK PLC. He should be making better decisions and taking into account more problems that have been caused by what he's doing to try and suppress COVID-19 than the solutions he's introduced. But Simon, listen, thank you very much indeed for calling. You're absolutely right, made a very good point there. Simon says, and you may wish to take this up, you should question your own MP and find out what exactly your MP is doing. What did you vote for? What did you want him to do? Right, we're going to go back to the lines. And I think we've got David now, who's calling us from, let me just sort this out, Peterborough. Hi, David.
Hi there, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed, David. Thank you very much indeed for calling me. What's your situation up there in Peterborough, David?
Well, we're tier 2,
right.
But I would say we're tier 2.5.
Right.
Purely because you can't go into a pub and have a drink. So the wet trade, if you like, again, of the pub. The 4 pubs that sell 90, probably the odd sarnie, a packet of crisps, and a packet of nuts.
Yes.
And that's those are the places that are really, really going to suffer.
Oh, they are. They're closed. David, you're absolutely right. They're closed. I've spoken to a couple of landlords of what you would call wet pubs who make 90% of their revenue simply through beer and drinks across the bar. They're closed, mate. So
they're done.
Yeah,
probably never to reopen.
Well, I hope that's not the case, but it's going to be the case for some establishments. Some establishments won't be able to survive, and we are having the glorious pub trade in this country closed down, but people's lives, people's livelihoods are at risk. Sometimes people's lives are at risk because poverty kills, and I think it's disgraceful. What about your own particular situation? Do you have a favourite hostelry?
Yes, I do. And what I've been doing in this so-called lockdown, I meet up with my friends at the local where I frequent.
Yes.
They've got a nice outdoor area there, which is open and easily accessible to the public.
Yes.
So what I've been doing, I've just been going to the supermarket. We've been going to the supermarket. We've been getting tins of beer. And we've been sitting quietly, just normally, as you would normally do.
Yes.
Good citizens, just sitting outside the pub, drinking our tins of beer.
Now, is that with the permission of the landlord of the pub?
Now, well, this is the question now.
Yeah, go on.
We've been there and I've had no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've never said anything. In fact, they've even come out when it gets 4 o'clock time and have turned lights on and we've been sitting there.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens this week.
Well, is that a wet pub, by the way, or is that
No, it isn't. This one isn't a wet pub.
Right, it provides meals, I see. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, look.
It's going to be interesting on this one. What are they going to do to us? Are they going to say, move on, mate? Because you know...
Well, hang on. How can they say... I suppose the difference is that at the moment, the landlord of the pub is allowing you to use his furniture for you to digest drinks that you bought at the supermarket. So he's just being a pal and saying, yes, you can use my tables. I think what you're saying is, what happens if you go and buy the alcohol from inside his pub and then come outside and sit there and drink it. I think that's allowed, actually. I think if he's got heaters and that sort of thing, I think you may well have found a bit of a loophole there. Good luck to you.
I hope that's what they're going to do. And I'll make the next point I'm going to make. I actually emailed my MP.
Good man.
And I said to him, with all these tens of thousands of jobs that are going to be going, what makes you think your job is safe?
Yes. And what did he say? Has he replied to you?
Oh, yes, I did. I'll be honest with you, I was gobsmacked because I didn't expect any reply. Normally, that would have just been binned straight away.
Yeah.
But yes, I did get a letter signed by himself.
Yeah.
Probably didn't. It's probably just a standard letter. But anyway, he did.
We've got to move on, mate. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Dave makes a very good point there. You know, he's sitting outside his local pub with the permission of his landlord. He's having a few drinks, but he's buying them himself. Let's go on to Devon. Lovely part of the world, but not far enough down into the southwest to get into the Cornwall 1%. Let's talk to Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Very well indeed, Sam. Thank you for calling me. You live in Devon. You can't be far from the Cornwall border, wherever you are in Devon, but you must feel hard done to that Cornwall are free and you're not.
Well, we're coming out into Tier 2, and where I live in Devon, I am quite close to the Cornish border, so if needs be, I suppose I can just take a little half-hour's trip down the road. But, Mike, I wanted to talk to you about what you were saying about Christmas.
Yes.
How we've been given these 5 days off for Christmas.
Yes.
And we'll be told after that, deaths have risen, so we must go into a lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's bound to happen, isn't it? Because every single Christmas, we will see a peak in death. I've had elderly relatives pass over the Christmas period. I've known friends who've had elderly relatives who've passed over Christmas.
Yep.
We all know that over Christmas and just after Christmas, what you'll tend to find is that there's a delay in getting a funeral booked, because every Christmas we see a peak, not just the elderly, but also suicide rates and everything. So it's a foregone conclusion. The death
Sam, you're absolutely right. You make a great point there. I don't want to get gloomy on this show and talk about people dying over Christmas. It does happen. But the point is, I want you to realise this, folks, that I want us all to have a great Christmas. But I don't want Christmas to be so distinguishedly different to the rules under which we're living our life before and after Christmas, because it gives the lawmakers, the government, currently our jailers, the opportunity to say you've misbehaved. And so we've got to come into another lockdown. I hate lockdowns, and I don't want lockdowns. I think personal responsibility is the only way now forward. Lockdowns don't work. Where's the exit strategy, Mr. Johnson? I don't believe you've got one. I think you're running in a blind panic down a blind alley. I really do. Right, OK, folks, after the break, we're going to go to somebody who knows all about the problems within the licensing trade at the moment. We're going to talk to the chef and director of the Moore Hall restaurant in Orton, West Lancashire. Beautiful part of the world. Don't forget you can call me on 0344 499 1000 or text talk and your message to 87222. We'll try and get as many messages as we can from yourselves out into the wider world this afternoon. I'm Mike Parry and this is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online, on DAB and on your smart speaker. Talk Radio.
Whether you're decking the halls with boughs of holly, driving home for Christmas or rocking around the Christmas tree, Costa is there for you every step of the way this year with pre-order for collection with our app, delivery, drive-through and Costa Express. So if all you want for Christmas is a delicious festive treat, well, 'tis the season to be jolly. Find your nearest Costa on the app. T's and C's apply. Delivery and pre-order available at participating stores. See costa.co.uk/terms.
By playing the National Lottery, you raise £30 million every week for good causes. £30 million. That can build 1 million bee hotels to help the environment. Actually, shouldn't they be called B&Bs instead? Every week, you raise £30 million for good causes. The National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Players must be 16 or over.
Businesses, time is running out. Starting on the 1st of Jan, anyone who deals with Europe will have to follow new rules on exports, imports, tariffs, data and hiring. I know we've all got our hands full right now, but basically, if any part of your business crosses borders, you need to do something about it. now. This is happening. So make sure you have everything covered. We haven't got long. Start now at gov.uk/transition. Check, change, go.
This Christmas, enjoy the limited edition Double Big Mac with
1 slice of cheese, 2 gherkins, 3 bits of bun, and 100% British and Irish beef.
Christmas is here at McDonald's. Available until the 29th of December. Served after 11 a.m. Subject to availability. Participating restaurants only.
It's the EE Black Friday sale, and we've maxed out the savings. Save £462 on the amazing Samsung Galaxy S20 5G on a 10-gig plan. On the UK's #1 5G network, that's bigger than big. Next up, save £144 on a Galaxy Watch 3. That's beyond brilliant. Blimey, we got ourselves an off-the-scale sale. Act fast. This Black Friday, our offers end 7th of December.
Limited 5G coverage, 24-month plan. Terms apply. #1 for network performance. Verified ee.co.uk/claims.
At Morrison's this Christmas, our British beef roasting joint from our butchers is $4.99 a kilo. And our fresh whole salmon from our fishmongers is also $4.99 a kilo. Morrison's, making Christmas special. Majority of stores subject to availability. Online varies. Beef is vacuum packed.
Save £30 on Ancestry DNA until Cyber Monday and discover the people, places and journeys that led to you. All for the lowest price of the year. Buy your Ancestry DNA kit today for just £49. Price excludes shipping costs. Offer ends 30th November.
Talk Radio. Traffic and travel.
In Bedfordshire, on the M1 southbound at junction 11 for Dunstable South and Luton, a broken down van is blocking lane 1 and causing delays. The M4 remains closed both ways in Berkshire between junction 8-9 for Maidenhead and junction 10 for Wokingham because of the weekend works, and the highways also have the M20 closed both ways in Kent between junction 2 for Rootham and junction 4 for Leybourne. They're both due to reopen in the early hours of Monday morning. In West Sussex, the M23 northbound is still closed between junction 10 for Crawley and junction 8 for the M25 for the ongoing emergency repairs. I'm Michael Page.
Dell's Black Friday mega deals are live during our biggest business sale of the year. Save up to 50% on selected tech, including Dell's award-winning monitors. Speak with a Dell advisor today and get the right tech solution for your business this Black Friday. Call 0800 085 4878 or visit dell.co.uk/Black Friday work to shop Dell's biggest sale of the year. Limited availability. T's and C's apply.
Porky Parry on Talk Radio.
Okay, folks, you're listening to Talk Radio. I'm Mike Parry. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this afternoon. This is not a show this afternoon. This is a mission, okay? It's a mission to try and sort out the complete and utter mess the country's in at the moment. And it seems to me like the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is just literally it's like one of those balls in a pinball machine. Ping, 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 ping. Who gave them the last great idea? Because from, insisting that we go into these onerous and draconian new restrictions coming up on Wednesday, December the 2nd, when we move out of lockdown 2, allegedly. But as far as I'm concerned, we move into lockdown 3. He's now saying overnight, because he's had the pressure put on him by at least 100 Tory MPs, oh, well, don't worry, we might be able to review that then in another 14 days' time. Honestly, it's who last spoke to him and when did he last change his mind and decide to do something else? Lockdowns don't work, Mr. Johnson. Find another strategy. Give personal responsibility back to the individual, and believe me, you'll beat the problem a lot sooner than you're going to beat it with your tactics, OK? Right, let's go and talk to somebody who knows all about this. Mark Birchall is the Chief and Director at Moorhall Restaurant, with rooms at the Barn at Moorhall in Orton in beautiful West Lancashire, and he's on the line with me now. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Very well indeed. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Well, Mark, you are literally at the coalface here, aren't you? You've got a business which relies on the openness of our society, of people to be able to walk through your front door, to order what they want, to stand and chat at the bar or go and sit down and enjoy a meal. The freedom to socialise with others, all that's been taken away. So how are you coping?
Absolutely. The government have pretty much crucified all of hospitality over the last 12 months.
Yes. Well, certainly since March, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Since when we reopened in July, it was absolutely magnificent. It was amazing.
Yep.
I mean, the support we had from our guests was unbelievable. Everything we had in place, social distancing, fine. Everything worked really, really well. And guests really appreciated it and came back. We can't do anything more, and I think the cases related to eating out in hospitality, restaurants, is minuscule, and we're just getting punished.
Yeah, it's an absolute disgrace to me. Between the two lockdowns, I would normally use quite a lot of pubs because in the course of my business, I travel through London, go down to Surrey, go across town to see other people. I restricted myself to about probably 4 pubs, that I've used because I didn't want to sort of stretch the limits of, risk or anything like that. I never got contacted once by anybody saying, oh, somebody's been in here who's had it. I never got any information of anybody who'd been in a pub and caught COVID. I didn't hear of any problems. That, as far as I'm concerned, it was the safest environment I could possibly be in, safer than being on public transport, safer than mixing in the streets with people who don't wear masks, and all of a sudden you're punished and put down. Now, the thing is, Mark, you've got a very interesting position because apart from being director at your establishment, you're also the chef. So I assume that you have a business that can provide a substantial meal. So won't that get you off the hook?
Well, not in tier 3 because we can't open. We can only do takeaways.
Of course, you're in tier 3. I beg your pardon. Of course you are. And the takeaway situation, that won't help. You won't be cooking stuff in the kitchen and sending that out.
It's pointless. We have almost 90 people on the payroll here, and
90.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to wash its face. And it's the type of food that doesn't really translate very well into a kind of delivery service anyway. But it's just not feasible. It's I can't even say it's better to close either. We just need to be open. I mean, closing through November will cost us 30 grand.
I mean, you've got 90 people on your payroll, so you're a considerable establishment. That's a lot of people. How do you keep the spirits of these people up? And I would imagine a lot of them maybe come from Eastern Europe or abroad, have come here to make a new life in this country because a lot of the hospitality industry depends on imported labour, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably another conversation, isn't it, really? But yeah, we have staff from all over the world. The staff are fine. We're probably one of the lucky establishments. We will always be open, no matter what.
Yeah.
Obviously privately owned, so we're lucky. We're lucky from that respect.
Yeah.
But it's a catastrophic amount to stay closed. We're going to spend £10,000 on NI and pensions.
Yes.
In December. It's not free to close. It's just totally painful.
Yeah, no, it is painful. So, Mark, tell me what's going to happen, please, at Christmas. You're allowed to open, presumably now, from the 23rd to the 27th. So have you got full bookings for Christmas Day and Boxing Day? What sort of restrictions have you been told you've got to impose upon your customers? And what happens when the new lockdown comes back on the 27th?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, we don't know. It's going to get reviewed, isn't it, in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping we'll be able to open. I was also hoping we won't be in tier 3, we'd be in tier 2, like Liverpool, which is literally, I can walk 5 minutes from Liverpool.
Good God. Yeah. Disgraceful. Utterly disgraceful. But what I mean is, you've got a big establishment there. You've got to gear everything up for 4 days, and then you've got to gear it down again. I mean, I can't understand how you can have such a versatile business that's going to cope. Volumes of alcohol in your establishment, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you've just got to do what you've got to do. You've got to do your best to try and make it work. I mean, at the moment, we've had we've only been open 3 years. We've had a fantastic 3 years. We should be having an amazing time now. We're at the top of our game. And, we'll make it work. We'll open when we can open. But I'm not saying we need more notice, but it's just the frustrating thing for me is I can... next week, I can go into any shop I can watch my son play football on a Sunday morning, and there'll be about 1,200 people to and fro him. But you can't come into a restaurant where the cases are below 5%.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Have you had any cases during any of the course of your opening time since last March in which you've seen a customer contract COVID-19?
No.
And do you know of any cases in your local area where that's happened?
No, not in any restaurants or pubs. We probably have 15,000 people walk through the gates.
Yeah.
And not one COVID-related case.
Yeah. And you've not had one single report of one single case in all that time?
Not from a guest, no.
Good God, that's utterly unbelievable. Is your business going to survive, Mark?
It will, because I think, like I said, we're one of the lucky ones. We own the property.
Yeah.
We didn't own the property when they've opened in July.
Yeah. Well, look, I admire how stoic you're being, in the face of what I think are completely ridiculous and terribly unfair rules which have hammered your business and hampered your business. And I really admire your strength in showing optimism and, of course, standing up for your 90 staff. I wish you the very best of luck, Mark, and I hope that in better times, one of these days when I'm up in the northwest, probably visiting to see my team Everton, I might be able to pay you a quick visit. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. That's Mark Birchall, the chef and director at Moor Hall Restaurant with rooms and the barn at Moor Hall, Autumn, West Lancashire. Big business that. I've got 90 people who depend on him, and it's heartbreaking to think that you've got to struggle through all that, but there you are. Anyway, folks, listen, I ask you to send me messages. I'm delighted that so many of you do. Read out a few of them here. Get my technology right, because of course you all know how good I am at technology. What we got here, excuse me. Yes, here we go. It says, OK, Mike, excuse me, please keep going. Report the truth and the facts instead of the false narrative, which seems to be getting fuelled by people in government. OK, thank you very much indeed. That comes from a guy called Bob. Somebody else here saying everybody should unlock their businesses. Their aim is to take out small and independent businesses because Amazon isn't suffering. Well, that's another Bob, actually. That's a different argument altogether. Amazon, of course, doing very well in this lockdown. High streets are a completely separate argument. God knows what's going to happen to the high street. Furloughed at the moment. How many of those jobs will still be around when we come back? We simply don't know. OK, folks, so look, I want you to keep calling, keep contacting me, please. You know what the number is. The number is 0344 499 1000. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find some sort of solution to the horrendous draconian rules that we're being told we're going to have to comply with from Wednesday this week, when allegedly we're outside of Lock 2. Coming up next on the show today is music guru Danny Kelly. I'm going to be talking George Harrison.
Talk Radio.
It's Lidl's Pick of the Week. Save up to 30% with 6 fresh fruit and veg deals. And bonus Black Friday bargains. Like a selection pack of 10 steaks for just $19.99. All this and more Black Friday deals in Lidl stores now. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
It's the EE Black Friday sale and we've maxed out the savings. Save £462 on the amazing Samsung Galaxy S25G on a 10 gig plan. On the UK's #1 5G network, that's bigger than big. Next up, save £144 on a Galaxy Watch 3. That's beyond brilliant. Blimey, we got ourselves an off-the-scale sale. Act fast. This Black Friday, our offers end 7th of December.
Limited 5G coverage, 24-month plan. Terms apply. #1 for network performance. Verified ee.co.uk/claims.
Get more from Black Friday with Lenovo. From 8 p.m. on the 26th of November, enjoy a minimum 10% off almost everything at Lenovo.com. And on Black Friday, discover amazing mega deals as they're released throughout the day. So keep checking Lenovo.com throughout Black Friday and enjoy incredible deals on laptops powered by Intel Core processors, desktops, tablets, gaming devices, and more. Don't miss out. Spend Black Friday at Lenovo.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Hello?
Hi, it's Helen from the dry cleaners here. We found something in the pocket of the trousers you brought in.
Oh, really? What was it?
Another pair of trousers.
Oh, how'd that happen?
Like getting your money's worth? Enjoy the delicious mayo chicken, just 99p from the McDonald's Saver menu. From 11am, price and participation may vary.
Talk Radio.
Running your own company's pension scheme can take a lot of time, and that's valuable time you're not spending running your company.
It's time for change. Let Evolve Pensions run it for you. Since 1988, we've been helping businesses increase members' pensions, reduce charges, and take away the strain of running a workplace auto-enrollment scheme with our pension solution, Crystal.
Let Evolve take care of your pension so you can take care of business. Text Evolve to 60777 now. Evolve's Crystal is authorised by the pensions regulator.
It's a remarkable Premier League season on Now TV, and the goals are flying in. Today, Man United visit Southampton before Chelsea host Tottenham in a big London derby.
Absolutely incredible.
And you can watch both games live for a one-off price of $9.99. With a Now TV Sky Sports Pass, you only pay for the games that matter to you.
It's a magnificent finish.
Search Now TV Sports. 18 plus, content streamed via internet, full terms apply.
At Morrison's this Christmas, our British beef roasting joint from our butchers is $4.99 a kilo, and our fresh whole salmon from our fishmongers is also $4.99 a kilo. Morrison's, making Christmas special. Majority of stores subject to availability. Online varies. Beef is vacuum packed. This Black Friday, get super reliable Sky Broadband Superfast for just £25. And now with anytime calls. So everyone can stream, game and share. Because we guarantee you get the speed we promised or money back. It's now only £25 a month for 18 months plus $19.95 setup. For new and existing customers, hurry to sky.com. Offer ends November 30th. Prices may change during contract. Sky Fibre area speed varies by locations. Average download speed 59 megabytes. Speed to hub must drop below minimum download speed 3 days in a row. 1 month's refund more at sky.com.
Across the UK, online and on DAB. Talk Radio on the Hour Headlines.
From the Sky News Centre at 2, Boris Johnson's warning there'll be disastrous consequences for the NHS without new tiered coronavirus restrictions when England's lockdown ends. He says the rules have a sunset clause or expiry date of the 3rd of February as he faces a backlash from Tory MPs ahead of Tuesday's Commons vote. The Foreign Secretary's warning cases would increase rapidly if tougher measures are not applied across entire counties. Dominic Raab insists the government's looking at all the issues.
What we will do in advance of the vote this week is make sure that there is analysis of the cost benefits of both the COVID health outcomes, the non-COVID health outcomes, economic impact and indeed the social impact. And I've been talking to colleagues and I think this is a fair question.
Labour's urging the government to suspend peak rail fares and have mass coronavirus testing for transport workers to avoid travel chaos at Christmas. COVID-19 restrictions are being relaxed for 5 days from the 23rd of December. The Shadow Transport Secretary Jim McMahon's urging Westminster to make changes so the rail industry is prepared.
At the moment, there is no peak. People aren't using the railways in the way that they would in normal times. And so while we've still got the peak tickets in place, that essentially creates a bottleneck of demand on the last off-peak train and then the first off-peak train. It just doesn't make any sense.
A control zone's been put around a farm in North Yorkshire where more than 10,000 turkeys are being culled after bird flu was confirmed there. Cases have been found at a premises near Northallerton. A British woman who's been travelling in a camper van for 6 years has gone missing in the Pyrenees. Esther Dingley, who's 37, last spoke to her partner a week ago. In football, Southampton are just starting in their attempt to go up as high as second in the Premier League. They are hosting Manchester United. Later, the winner of Tottenham against Chelsea will go top of the table. In the Championship, Swansea have just won 1-0 at Nottingham Forest, and Celtic are beginning the defence of their Scottish League Cup by hosting Ross County. That's the latest. I'm Victoria Lawrence.
Talk Radio. Talk Radio. Across the UK. Mike Hawkey Barry on Talk Radio.
OK, folks, you are listening to Talk Radio. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I'm Mike Parry, coming to you from Talk Radio Towers. We've got a spiffing show going on at the moment. Been with you since 1. I'm going to be with you up until 4 o'clock. Lots of energy and activity in this show, and we are going to try and get to the bottom of the current situation that's crippling this country. New lockdown coming in on Wednesday, December the 2nd, you say, hang on, I thought we were coming out of lockdown. No, we're coming out of lockdown 2, but as far as I'm concerned, to all intents and purposes, going straight into lockdown 3. More of that later, OK? Let's lift the gloom and let's celebrate the life of one of the greatest ever musicians that has been born to this country. There's 2 anniversaries here, which I'm going to tell you about. 50 years ago last week, George Harrison's triple album, All Things Must Pass, got straight to number 1 on both sides of the Atlantic, and the record from it, My Sweet Lord, hit number 1 in the singles charts. And sadly, I have to say to you, 19 years ago today, George Harrison died of lung cancer in the United States of America. George Harrison, of course, one of the Fab Four, one of the Beatles, the greatest band that this country's ever produced. And to commemorate both those anniversaries, I'm delighted to say I've got a man on the line now who probably knows more about it than anybody else I've ever met. And that is, of course, musical guru and broadcaster Danny Kelly. Danny, thanks very much indeed for joining me.
Hey, Mike, no problem at all. Hope you're well.
Well, I am indeed to hear from you, Danny. Thanks very much indeed. Just briefly, Danny, let me just sort of set out my stall here. George Harrison, increasingly as the Beatles went on, became more and more frustrated about his talent being hidden in the shadow of Lennon and McCartney. Bit of a bust-up at the end, even before the Beatles broke up. And then he blossomed like a flower, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think the frustration is because the band was so dominated by that songwriting partnership of Lennon and McCartney. Yeah. It was hard for him to squeeze his own songs in, but his influence in the Beatles grew and grew and grew. We shouldn't forget that. From being sort of just a guitar player and a harmony singer, first of all, he gets involved with Bob Dylan and the Byrds, and suddenly the Beatles have got a 12-string Rickenbacker in there, and that sound changes. And you could argue the sound of the Beatles on the 2 of their greatest LPs, Revolver and Rubber Soul, is driven by the change in the guitar playing of George Harrison. Later on, of course, when he becomes the first one to become interested in Indian music, a lot of the lovely droney songs that they make in the late 60s, they're because of his interest and friendship with Ravi Shankar. So yes, he was having an increasing influence, I believe, in the way that the Beatles actually sounded. But of course, he was writing tons and tons of songs. And when you're up against a songwriting partnership like that of Lennon and McCartney, even when they were writing kind of individually, you're only going to get a couple of them out at any time. Which is why I think All Things Must Pass, as you say, the idea of a treble album going straight to number 1. I mean, that's because there was an awful lot of pent-up creative frustration being put into that record by the time it was released. I'm sure. When you say about the individual Beatles writing their own songs, I mean, I've read so much about the Beatles over the years that, I can't remember where it came from, but the White Album, the Beatles album immediately after Sgt. Pepper's, was a double album. And I read a quote from John Lennon or Paul McCartney somewhere saying, look, by that time we had 3 songwriters in the Beatles, so we decided to bring out a double album to accommodate all the great songs that we had, most of which were written in India. So he really came into his own on that White Album, didn't he? Absolutely, and the very fact that they said the phrase in India, it was Harrison who first became interested in Indian culture, not just an Indian philosophy, not just Indian music. And if you think that the influence that the Gurus and the trip to India had on the other Beatles, you can see that again. This is where it's not a hidden story, but the story that doesn't get told quite so often is of the band is being led in directions that it wouldn't have done otherwise by George Harrison, who, I mean, look, before we get too starry-eyed, later in life when George was paying for people to practice yogic flying, and you see him bouncing up and down on his backside on that kind of big spongy mat, you think that maybe this has gone too far. But, what the important thing about Harrison and that part of the world is that prior to that, our engagement in the West with music from the wider parts of the world had often been novelty. He treated it with utter respect and integrated it into the work without any attempt to just make it into, hello, look at this. And that's why he was brilliant at it. That's right. One of the marks of his talent, in my view, is that I suppose musicians inside their industry know about those who are talented and those who've, got certain skills and special skills.
And I was amazed after the Beatles broke up when George Harrison was embraced by people like Bob Dylan. You know, he was embraced by great musicians around the world who had worked individually, Roy Orbison, and suddenly became part of a supergroup. And I thought that if that was going to happen to anybody, it would have happened to, like, John Lennon or Paul McCartney.
I think, yes, I hear you, but you're talking about the work he did with the Travelling Wilburys.
Yes.
This is because he'd met Dylan at Woodstock in upstate New York in the late 60s, working with the band, and he, George Harrison, had become incredibly impressed with the way that operation, the band, was a collaborative effort without ego. And of course, having watched Lennon and McCartney take all the limelight in the Beatles, he would have been impressed by that. And as you say, that led to his friendship with other musicians ran very deep because he was a great collaborator, rather than somebody who just wanted them as backing guys.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's sad, isn't it? There's only two Beatles left now. George Harrison died 19 years ago today. It's not really about his musical talent, Danny, but there was an amazing incident when an interloper broke into his home near Henley in Oxfordshire, Henley-on-Thames, and smashed a huge window, literally threw a stone statue through the window, broke into the house. George came rushing down the stairs chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But I have read, according to his son and members of his family, that was such a harrowing incident, it might have triggered something inside George Harrison, which eventually led to his death.
Look, none of us know. I mean, the details of that are horrific.
Yes.
This is a mentally ill person who breaks into the house wielding a knife. George was treated in hospital for 40 wounds.
40?
Such was his 40 different wounds.
Yeah.
Including one which went into his lung and caused him to have part of his lung removed. His wife Olivia eventually felled this fellow using, I think, poker. Repeatedly hitting him with a poker. Now, George didn't seem to recover very well from that in the longer term. You know, doctors would say he was also a lifelong smoker, so, you know, who knows what triggers these things in our bodies, Mike. We're both survivors of the horrific disease that just come out of you from nowhere. I mean, the interesting thing about his death in Los Angeles is that the Beatles reunion was never a runner because he and Paul McCartney, while loving each other at some level, also got on each other's nerves a lot. It is interesting and illustrative, I think, that he dies in a property owned by Paul McCartney. Really?
What a house in Los Angeles or Malibu or somewhere?
Yeah, in Los Angeles,
Good God, it's incredible.
He spent his final hours in a house that Paul says, by all means, go and do what you have to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I read a story once about John Lennon driving from his house in Surrey over to see George in Esher, where he lived, and took to him a letter that John Lennon had received from Paul McCartney, indicating that George was causing problems, and John seemed to be sympathetic to it. So it wasn't just Lennon and McCartney who fell out at the end of the Beatles then.
No, I say that the McCartney and Harrison had met very early in their life at school and stuff, and you know, they were very ways very similar backgrounds, but they did by the end of it their time. Like any of us, Mike, incarcerated in work situations with each other, you and I know you can eventually end up getting on each other's nerves. And in your case, there's a far more famous example, isn't there?
Well,
over there at Talk Radio.
How could I possibly get on anybody's nerves? The sweet disposition that I have, but no, Danny, I know exactly what you mean. Okay, Danny. Well, listen, thank you very much indeed for your time. As ever, if I want to know anything about the history of the world of pop music and its greatest stars, I know where to come. Danny, thanks very much indeed. That's Danny Kelly.
Have a great day.
Thanks, mate, very much indeed. Danny Kelly, my colleague, works on TalkSport now and many other places. And of course, I've enjoyed doing some really smashing shows with Danny in the past, and hopefully we'll do so in the future. OK, folks, you're listening to Talk Radio. I want you to get hold of me, please. You can talk about the issues that are important to us. You know, what's going to happen next Wednesday when Lockdown 2 ends? Because actually, it's going to be morphed into Lockdown 3. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about it coming up to Christmas? Do you think the 5-day release or the 4-day release, 23rd to 27th, should actually be allowed? And then we go back into restrictions and then probably into lockdown, Johnny. It's all a bit of a mess, isn't it? You know, and I think the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is just, you know, pinging around like a ball in a machine. I really do. And I don't see any logic in it. And I wish we could take another approach. What is the exit strategy? Give us a call, please. 0344 499 1000. Coming up in the show later on, we're going to be talking to people who have been told that they can't have their teas anymore at local village cricket matches. And do you know why? Well, you can find out if you stick around. Tell you then. Okay, you're listening to Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
The new Sun Digital Edition app is the Sun and then some. Get your favourite newspaper delivered straight to your device with a live news feed so you never miss a story. Featuring the latest breaking national and international headlines, unmissable Sun exclusives, and top Sun columnists like Jeremy Clarkson and Jay Moore. You can still enjoy all the Sun's incredible weekly magazines and pull-outs, with Goals, Fabulous, The Favourite, TV Magazine, and many more on your device. Plus, dive deeper into every story with exclusive videos and brilliant features like Pinch and Zoom. The Sun Digital Edition app. It's the Sun and then some. Download it today. Terms and conditions apply. Visit thesun.co.uk/app to find out more.
And then they all lived happily ever after. The end.
Night, Dad.
ISBN number 0130998634. Cover photograph by...
Like getting your money's worth? Enjoy our delicious 99p cheeseburger, part of the McDonald's Saver menu. From 11 a.m, price and participation may vary.
Jen's new smart speaker should be teaching her to cook a chicken. But it's not, because her Wi-Fi doesn't reach the kitchen, so she's winging it. Poussin le ceiling is served. Oh, why, Jen? Why buy the best home tech if your Wi-Fi won't support it? Well, with BT Complete Wi-Fi, that bird can still be